Joining me now from Virginia in the United States is Dr. Siddhartha Roy. He is a research scientist at Virginia Tech University and was part of the team that helped uncover the Flint water crisis. And in East Lansing, in Michigan, is Jessyca Mathews. She is a high school teacher in Flint and an environmental justice activist. Thanks both so much for joining us. Sid, if I can, let me start with you. Just tell us, from a scientific standpoint now, is Flint's water supply ready for general consumption?
So that's a great question, and the answer is a little bit nuanced. In August 2015, when we worked with Flint residents to uncover citywide lead contamination, the testing clearly showed that there was a huge problem and citizens were at risk. And it was the same testing we carried out throughout 2016, again, with residents, and the latest in August of 2017, which showed a steady decrease in these lead levels. And to this day, Flint is meeting all federal standards when it comes to contaminants. So right now, from a federal standpoint, absolutely, Flint's water is meeting standards. And the state's testing is showing the same thing. And another researcher at Michigan State University just released her study 4 days ago. She was part of this team that was asked to test because of a part of a settlement, so that an independent team can come in and use science to show what was going on. And even she found that the lead results in Flint are now meeting all federal standards.
Okay, would you drink it?
Great question. So I personally would drink water through a filter. The reason I say that is because Flint is similar to any city in the U.S. with old lead pipes. And if you have lead pipes in your system, I cannot guarantee that you will not have lead ever. Therefore, my recommendation is always, no matter which city you're in, to use a lead filter.
Okay. Jessyca, from your point of view, I mean, it wasn't just about the battle to actually clean up Flint's water supply. It's now a battle to win back the trust of the people in Flint. Do you trust your local leaders anymore?
I do not trust the decisions that have been made for the citizens of Flint. There has been a lack of transparency on a number of issues that have gone on within the city to explain the process in which of saying, yes, all of a sudden this water is safe for us to drink. There haven't been a lot of updates for people to read, to see the whole process in which they made for us to say, it's okay for us to get to this point where we can drink out of the tap. So I, along with a number of people with the government decisions, are uncomfortable with such a rushed act of saying, yes, everyone, let's start to begin to drink out of the tap again.
And in the meantime, Jessyca, I mean, they've ended the free bottled water program, but only, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, just over a third, at last I heard, of the contaminated lead pipes have actually been replaced. And now you have Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha, who actually led the Hurley Medical Center lead poisoning study. She just tweeted that this is wrong. Until all lead pipes are replaced, we need to make filters and bottled water free. Is that the same mission you're on, that at the very least there still needs to be the free distribution of clean bottled water and filters, Jessyca?
I completely agree with Dr. Mona. There are specific areas within the city where the pipes have been changed, but as it was stated, 2/3 of the city hasn't received those pipes. So for us to ignore that there were parts of the city that had 5 times the parts per billion of lead that should be allowed in water, and suddenly look and say, we need you to go ahead and switch over to a filter, which the filters we were using weren't working for them as well, to suddenly go, now it's your responsibility to buy your own bottled water, pay for the water that we can't use to begin with, and trust us that this process will happen. I find that completely unfair for the citizens of Flint. How long are we supposed to wait to see that justice can be complete if you don't care enough to take care of us until all the pipes are replaced?
I want to ask further about...
Why would we trust you?
Yeah, and I want to ask a little bit further about that justice in just a second. But before we go on, Sid, let me ask you, because I want to return to what you were saying, that this water actually does meet federal standards. But then what does it say, perhaps, about the federal standards and the state of water, not just in the public supply, but in the private supply as well? I mean, is there a reality we need to accept here that all water supplies are going to be questionable, especially given that bottled water is now been deemed to contain what could be dangerous microplastics?
So, I don't have any expertise in microplastics, but from a federal standpoint, I will tell you that in the aftermath of Flint, there have been wide-ranging investigations across the country, and more than 5,000 water systems were shown in 2016 to be failing the federal standard. So to be honest, first off, you do have a widespread problem because of aging infrastructure, lead pipes that are still in the ground in every major U.S. city, and lead-bearing plumbing like brass faucets inside homes that could leach lead, even if you do everything right when it comes to water treatment. And also that the standard is not very strong. I mean, what the standard says is, if 90% of homes, high-risk homes that have a lead pipe tested, have less than 15 parts per billion, you're in compliance. So what that obviously means is 10% of homes can have any levels of lead, and you're in compliance. So that is unacceptable, and I think EPA and the state of Michigan are both trying to strengthen the law so that we can catch these issues as they occur. But to bring back to Flint, if they had followed the weak federal law in the first place, if they had treated the water right and tested it accurately, they would have detected a widespread problem. And they did, but they covered it up. And so now I am not the least bit surprised that not one resident in Flint trusts the state, the local government, or the federal agencies. Why would they? I mean, they were betrayed, and this man-made disaster was caused. But it's a problem that is not unique to Flint. It is a nationwide issue. And
that's frightening. Jessyca, I saw you nodding your head in agreement, and I wanted to come back to the issue of justice that you raised. How much do you think appropriate punishment, if it is delivered, will redeem the leadership in the city of Flint? I mean, right now we have just over a dozen officials that have been charged, some of them with involuntary manslaughter, but not yet sentenced. How closely will you be watching those sentences and see the precedent that they set and perhaps learn to trust your government again?
I think it's really important for us to emphasize, I am a teacher in the city of Flint, and we teach children that there is right and there's wrong, and there are consequences for what is wrong. So in seeing that the people that have been charged so far, that's wonderful. I'd like to see what other people will be charged dealing with this issue. It wasn't that just those 12 people. This was a decision that was made from the top all the way down in order for them to change the water due to money. So I know one thing that I will look very closely is how serious are we taking for these higher up officials who are elected to take care of the people to be held accountable for what they've done. So far, a lot of people, including me in the city of Flint, were very leery on those people actually being charged because we haven't seen any progress. So what steps are we going to make for progress for people to be made whole in the city of Flint?
Let me put this question to both of you. As people living in the United States, do you fear that the Flint water crisis really is actually symbolic of some very serious major infrastructure issues across the country, actually? I mean, from the state of roads and airports that we've seen crumbling to kind of a general lack of maintenance on large public works projects. It seems the U.S. has really just consumed its infrastructure. And do you think enough is being done to maintain, replace, or at the very least improve it? Sid, go ahead.
Perfect. Two things. First off, in the aftermath of Flint, there has been a lot of soul searching, a lot of actual investigations into seriously looking at issues. And, the more we look, the more we find. And infrastructure is one of the few issues where there is bipartisan support on actually, funding it, fixing it, making sure that the country's economic development, is not hindered because of these issues. So we are finally having a conversation of what it means to have safe water in America, and I'm very happy that's happening. There's also the point of injustice. The definition of environmental justice is if a population is not getting the same level of protection that the other people in the country are. It's injustice. And that is what happened in Flint. And so it is happening in other communities. And, we have to find both the funding and the will of these government agencies, of civil servants, working at these places to do their jobs and make sure people are not being put at risk for no fault of their own.
And Jessyca, as an activist, what are you doing to meet those ends?
I think it's really important for us to emphasize, especially when we're doing activism and work like this, that Flint is everywhere. This is not a case of just one location, which has been stated before. The concern of infrastructure, which is the really important part we need to understand about the water crisis, is that it became an infrastructure issue that went into the water. So in being a person who's going to be an activist, we need to demand that we get the right standards in all kinds of aspects when it comes to infrastructure. If we're going to think about money, we need to put money in the right way. We don't need to do it to cut corners where we are affecting the people. All our decisions are supposed to be made to help the people, not to hurt the people. And so Flint has been this prime example of we need to make the right decisions so that we are actually protecting and helping people.
On a larger scale, do you think the federal government in place now is on the right track toward doing that? Or do you fear what some say is the degradation of the EPA, for example, under this new leadership?
I think what happened to Flint was an example where we needed to start the race, but the race is not complete. Okay. We started to see that there has got to be this track that we have to run in order to get to the right standards for people. It is not done yet because this is going to happen anywhere, and it can be anybody who's affected, and we need to continue to do the race together as a group of people. How are we going to make the change together and finish the race?
Okay, Sid, as far as investment is concerned, though, when you hear the White House say some $1.7 trillion is going to be invested in infrastructure projects, do you look forward to seeing those steps taken? Do you think that's going to put things on a more solid ground?
I mean, absolutely. What happened in Flint is a disaster. It's unacceptable. So therefore, the fact that there is will on all levels of government to continue investing is huge. To give you just one example, we will need up to $1 trillion in the next 25 years to replace all the aging pipes across the country. The average age of pipes in Flint is 85 years. They are way, they're at the end of their lifetime. So I'm hoping, and I'm looking forward to investments not just in infrastructure, but in updating of standards, of making sure federal standards are enforced so that people stay protected.
Okay, Jessyca, if there's an upside to any of this, do you think Flint, the people of Flint, the people of Michigan, has Flint come out a stronger city? Are you seeing people engaged finally in a way that they haven't been before, so that you do feel like there is, in a sense, a silver lining in this tragedy?
People in the city of Flint have been strong people from the beginning. They've fought through all kinds of obstacles, loss of GM, people fleeing from the city for all kinds of different reasons. But the one thing I will say about people from the city of Flint, when we need to step up, we do step up. And so being put in this disaster, a number of people have taken the decision to say, we're going to keep talking. We're going to keep making sure there's a focus on this issue. Even though it's been 4 years, we're still focused on it. And we're going to find a way in order for us to build up, not only for the people of now, but the generations to come. So I think we'll stand strong. We'll keep doing what we need to do, but we do need help with people to help us in the focal area of making sure that we are a group that's not forgotten.
Okay, Jessyca Mathews, I'll let you have the last word. Thank you so much, Jessyca and Siddhartha Roy, for joining us on this edition of The Newsmakers.